We talked last week about self-care, and we talked a little bit about radical self-care. So radical self-care is really just the idea that you have to put on your oxygen mask, right? So what that really means is you need to take care of your own mental health and your own self-care, because if you're not in a good position to be there for yourself, you're not going to be there for anybody else either. Does that make sense? Just got to fix my phone. It keeps my tripod's acting up on me. There we go. Hopefully it'll stay there. I was trying to get up on the my computer instead because I thought it might be a little easier, but no, it really didn't want to work for me. So here I am back on my phone, which is fine. I'll fiddle with that another time. But so we were going to talk about the emotional side of self-care to start. But I want to wait until we get a few more people here, so I'll give it a few more minutes. If you guys can like, follow, share. I'm going to share the live here. If I can. To a few people. Okay, and do it again. So if you're interested in coming up, just press on the little symbol in the bottom left-hand corner, or let me know in chat and I will bring you up. There we go. Okay, thank you guys, and thank you for tapping the screen. I really appreciate it. I am just waiting to see if anybody wants to come up and talk to me. We're talking about self-care, and we're going to be talking first about emotional self-care. But I'm just waiting till we get at least one or two people on the panel to discuss, or at least I'm hoping to. We shall see. Self-care. So how's everybody doing today? Thank you, Miss Radical, for sharing. I appreciate it. I've got 5 people in here right now. Hopefully we can get some more people in here and talk a little bit about this. Let's see here, self-care wheel. Okay, so thank you very much. Just keep liking and sharing, and I'm just going to give a couple more minutes to see if we get anybody else in here. And if you're interested in coming up on the panel to have a conversation, that would be awesome. We're just going to be discussing self-care. And this morning, this afternoon, I guess, we're going to be talking a little bit about emotional, professional, personal, and intellectual. So we'll start with emotional self-care. So if you're in the chat and you want to tell me what kinds of things do you think emotional self-care qualify as emotional self-care? And if anybody wants to come up, you're invited. Just let me know. I'm going to take a look here. Got Treaty Bird. Hi, Treaty 6.
Hello there, my friend. How are you today?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, it's a good day.
That's good. That's good. It's been quiet this morning, but I got started a few minutes late because I was trying to, I got started on time, but like right on time.
Yeah.
I was trying to do it on my laptop first because I thought it might be easier, and it probably is, but
I don't think you can go live on a laptop.
You can. I've done. I've done it under my account, so I know you can. And I think that who is it that one of us does, but I can't remember who. I think it's Radical. It might go live because when I went to try to set it up, his information was there already.
Oh, because I'd love to go live on my laptop, actually. But
yeah, well, when I figure it out, I will.
Yeah, let me know.
I couldn't get Breaking the Dam on properly; like it was a whole thing. So when I figure it out, though, I will write it all out because why not, right?
Yeah. So you want to talk about self-care?
Yeah, specifically, we're going to talk about emotional self-care first.
Well, for me, good thing I've moved away from using substance.
That's good. Yeah, that is a
Yeah.
good move.
It's been a challenge because almost everybody in my life drinks.
Yeah.
Like pretty much everybody. My daughter quit drinking 6 years ago, which is
Oh, good on
beautiful
her.
for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say I've quit, but I
Hmm.
definitely consume much less. But it's also because I was starting to feel the health consequences of it.
Yeah.
Um, but I've moved away more too, and I'm sure you can tell by some of the things that I've done on TikTok is being outside.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time on the land. And I try at least if I'm home, so like I travel a lot for my job, but
Hmm.
if I'm home, I try to be out minimum half an hour a day. Sometimes I'm like honestly 2.5 hours. I'll be out
Wow.
in the bush, running around with the dogs and
That's awesome.
exploring.
Do you live on an acreage or are you in the city?
Yeah, we're out in on an acreage,
Nice.
and we're fortunate we have crown land right across the road from us,
Oh, beautiful.
and really large landowners who live elsewhere, so they don't
Mhm.
care if I'm walking out on their land either, because like their land behind my house is a hayfield, or and like they've recently had some crops out, but yeah, and then we also purchased ourselves just a two-person hot tub a couple years ago, and I'm telling you that
Do
I
you use it?
sometimes some days I'll go in like 2, 3 times a day just to kind of
Yep.
soak and leave all my troubles there. And then, thirdly,
Nice.
for me,
Mm-hmm.
ceremony has really helped improve my. Like I've started sweating and probably participating in active sweat ceremony. Probably
Nice.
about 5 years ago now. Like, and I don't go religiously by any
Hmm.
means, but I go when I can. Because there is also around ceremony the need
Yeah.
to not have consumed alcohol and stuff, right? So, like I said, and like that's a challenge at times because I do have a lot of folks that consume alcohol in my life.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so even having one drink would just, I wouldn't be able to go sweat. So, like, it's not
Yes.
about having even being drunk or anything, but even having one drink, I'd have to put it off again for. It's a
That's
4 day rule, right? You need to
oh,
have alcohol free for 4 days before you should participate in ceremony.
oh, that's cool. Is it for other intoxicants as well, or is it just alcohol?
Mostly, like
Anything but tobacco, probably.
cannabis isn't as terrible. Like it's
Hmm.
because people use it also to, for
Medicine.
ailments. It's more
Yeah.
medicinal and from the earth.
Yeah.
It's just that there's in my what I've been taught, and
Hmm.
like, I know teachings can be different from different places, but I've been taught too that when you drink, your soul leaves your body.
Ah.
So you want to wait those 4 days, and four is a very ceremonial, culturally significant number in Cree culture. So
Yeah.
you wait the 4 days for your soul or your spirit really to come back to you.
And really, like the medicine wheel, indigenous medicine wheel, is very much like this. It's just there might be two or three of the self care areas in one area, right? But it's very similar in that it's broken up into like the four seasons and the four elements,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
so cool.
And it's the four colors of the humans too,
Yeah.
right? So it's so many. It's a very significant teaching, which I don't speak very much on because I haven't been given that teaching,
Yeah.
and I haven't been given that teaching through protocol and ceremony. I'm aware of it, and I've learned
Yeah.
it from folks who carry that teaching and are wise in that teaching. But I wouldn't want to speak on the teachings of the medicine wheel until I felt more proficient. But
Yeah.
yes, it's very because it's about your spiritual, mental, physical, and
Yeah.
emotional well-being, right?
If you ever did become more proficient and want to, that would make a great show someday.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I could find somebody who would join us.
Yeah, because that would be cool to talk about
Okay.
healthcare in indigenous, like from an indigenous perspective, would be really cool
Yes.
because there's
Okay.
so much to learn.
I'll see who I can if I can find somebody who would be willing to come on as a special guest for you because I think it's a
Yeah, and if
like
it's an elder and I need to do a bursary, that's fine. I'm willing
oh
to do
yeah,
that.
okay. I will. I'll let you know. And it is a beautiful way to kind of ground yourself and be mindful. And that's really what it's about. It's mindfulness. And I think so many of us are learning to practice that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, exactly. It's and getting back in touch with nature is so important right now. I think a lot of us are very disconnected um, from
So
nature.
many.
And some people got more connected during COVID because that was like about all you could do. Um, but it's still, we need to really step away from our technology, I think, and reconnect a lot more in what we do.
Yeah, it's hard because I feel like this is my community too, right? Like living where Perry and I live
Hmm.
is not everybody. Like I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush, but we do find ourselves surrounded by some folks that aren't as receptive to people of color, and so it, and you just don't know where you're safe. So we don't go to like the community barbecues and to the, in this area they'll have like maybe once a season they'll have a potlucks and things like that, right? And I see the signs and we kind of chuckle, should we go?
Yeah.
you know and I did go to, actually I went to a and this kind of, don't want to take you off topic, but I went to a just an information session at a local community hall, and I felt the tension walking in there. So that's what brings us to social media, right? Is there's a safe place here where we find people that we can connect with, and not everybody has that in the city. And when we lived in the city, of course, you find way more people that are more open to diversity, and but just have the exposure to it. Like that's the problem with rural, right? Is the folks in rural communities haven't had much exposure to anyone else but their like-minded community
Yeah.
members.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that can be problematic. Like it goes both ways, right? Like we need to understand people in the country, but they need to understand the different views too.
Yeah, I try to be very gentle with, like, because that's part of mental health, for me too, right? Is trying to understand it and not take it offensively, and then also try not to own hatred back, right? And I don't want, and it's hard sometimes, I must admit, but it is a challenge for us.
Yeah.
You come move out to the country, you think you're gonna feel, all life's gonna be perfect and beautiful, but I
There's a
feel
lot
like
of work
how hard it
involved.
is.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. But that's how I do self care, is definitely time outside, my time in my hot tub, and trying to participate in ceremony.
Nice. And we'll talk to Desiree. You were next. Hey, Desiree, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. The sun's out
Hmm.
and it's warm,
Yeah.
and my porch is scorching already, but I can't complain after all the cold we had.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, but I just want to jump off of what Treaty said. It's not that I um, try to own being angry, it's the immense frustration
Hmm.
that gets to me more than anything else.
Yeah.
When you're all everybody's speaking, and everybody, on the left is like, no, this is the way it is. And they just dig in their heels even further. And that's what's frustrating to me, is that nobody wants to listen.
Yeah.
Just
And
even entertain just an iota of just listen. If 10 people are telling you it's a way,
hmm
you can't negate that. So I have been pretty good at being off of TikTok at times.
yeah, that's a good way to practice some emotional self care.
But then I go over to Facebook and I post the petitions, and I don't really scroll Facebook hardly anymore.
Yeah.
you know and I'm now at the point where I'm feel myself gearing up, because I
Yeah.
still have to get my poppy seeds out. Before we get completely warm, I have to get them out so that they get some cold, and looking at all my garden lights to see which made it through the winter so I can replace their batteries, and stuff like that. And of course, there's stuff that I need to do inside, as my husband's huffing in the background.
So with
But
that,
the sun
what are the
helps
things
me
do you
with
do for
that.
the emotions? Like, what do you do to for emotional self care specifically? Is it
Oh,
gardening?
I close the app, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Hmm.
Emotional self care. Typically, I didn't this winter, but typically I would read a lot, like
Yeah.
two or three books on an app a week,
Oh,
kind of
wow.
thing. But one of those writers
Mhm.
likes to throw some pretty twisty curveballs at us, so that can cause anxiety. Or she
Mhm.
kills off a beloved character. You
Ah,
know, So that's a whole that's a
Yeah,
whole
I
different
admittedly I
discussion.
read fluff when I need to. Like I love to read educational books and books on psychology topics and stuff like that and self care. But when I want to relax, I read fluff, like mostly romance
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like that.
those
Because I know
werewolf.
they're going to have a happy ending, right? And um,
Those, yeah, it's those werewolf books.
oh, is it
It's
like
on Dream.
Twilight?
No, it's on Dream. I have the Dream app,
Ah,
right? So there, I have my favorite authors that I've been following for 2 or 3 years, and yeah, it's just waiting till they got a new book out,
mm-hmm.
and away I go. I've always been an avid reader as even as a child, and it was an escape for me aside from music, and music is my other escape.
Music is
You
a great
know,
one.
and depending on how loud the music
Mm-hmm.
is how much I need to escape.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
like I have a very eclectic musical taste because it depends on my mood.
yes,
And
yeah,
sometimes it's a good time for Slipknot. you know, uh, but I'm all over the map with music. But I
yeah,
like angry music when I'm feeling stressed. I find it actually de-stresses me, which is interesting.
yeah. I don't really. I mean, the only thing that's not in my list is punk rock or heavy metal.
Hmm.
I've got just about everything else. So, um, but it really varies. What I decide to put on, if I decide to put that on, kind of
Hmm.
thing. I also have a cat
Yeah,
who is who is quite the character. You
cats
know,
can be a huge support.
yes, but he can be quite demanding in his own right,
Hmm.
and he's a long hair, so yeah, he's beautiful.
Oh,
So and then the other really major distressor is if there's a subject. My husband and I will talk about it,
hmm.
and he'll let me rant, rave, and carry on, and he'll ask questions, and we'll discuss things. Which it helps me distress, but it expands his knowledge as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So those are my things. Like we I mean, we haven't renovated the back part of the house.
Hmm.
So that's a bit of a stress anyway.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it really it's fluid from day to day, depending on what I need, how I need to distress, and what I need to distress, what tool I need to distress use that day to distress.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's a day to day kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm just going to say, if you guys can tap the screen, tapping is clapping. Do share the live if you haven't already. You can just hold your finger on my face and a pop up will come up and you can share with up to 15 people at a time. And please do gift the panelists if you have a chance. We do have some gift goals. It's really good because they're putting in a lot of emotional work. And we'll move on to Smarshy. Hey, Smarshy, what kinds of stuff do you do for emotional self care?
Like, I just, I don't know what we're talking about. I literally just woke up.
That is okay. We are talking about self care, and it's like some theories break them into 7 parts, and one of those parts is how you handle, like how you process emotions,
I
and
shut
what
down.
brings up your emotional being. So, like an example would be like having boundaries or stopping
Yeah.
negative self talk, or
So
yeah,
my brain shuts down.
yeah,
Not fully, but like it shuts down enough so that I can save my brain capacity. And then I
yeah,
read. I just turn on like Audible and I read. I just pick a
yeah,
book and I read. And
yeah.
sometimes I fall asleep because, that's just what you
That's
do.
good. Yeah,
And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do laundry and I read a book and I can get stuff done. But
yeah.
it's like emotionally regulating my body is like I know when I've had enough.
That's good. It's good to know that
Which
limit. And like one thing a lot of people don't talk about is boundaries. And I think boundaries are really important for
no,
emotional self care because we tend to put other people first a lot. At least that's what I do. And
right.
it's,
And
yeah,
I've done that. I've set boundaries and people just keep going over those boundaries and I'm like, no, you're not gonna do this.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's almost like talking to a petulant child who's having a temper tantrum.
Well, you have to, the thing about it is you have to sometimes guard those boundaries fiercely because some people will push them, like,
Right.
or just outright ignore them. So it is okay to let, like, politely tell people, you know what, this is a boundary for me. I don't talk on the phone after 10 because I need this time to rest, or whatever boundary they're
Right.
crossing. Right.
Well, I again got a message from a, well, not a friend anymore, I guess
Mhm.
you could say that. Um, Desiree and I were talking about it often on the app, and it was she had made some fucking wild claims, but we'll just go
Yeah.
there. And I wake up and I'm like, okay, why do you send me this shit when I'm sleeping?
Hmm.
And all I send her is cute little videos of like chickens running around and like puppy dogs and trying to and then so this morning she messages me, "Good morning." I'm like, "Morning," and that's the last thing I said to her because I don't know how to talk to her.
Yeah.
I
If she's,
I
what
just
kind of stuff is she sending you? Just really,
it's fucking out. It's out there.
oh, conspiracy theory kind of stuff, or,
No, it's racist shit. Is what
oh,
it
that's
is.
harder. Yeah. And
And I'm trying.
I would probably be up, like, and this is where it gets hard, but if somebody's crossing a line and being like racist and you're not comfortable with it, it's okay to say so.
Yeah.
It's hard
And
though. It's
and
hard.
and sometimes you you know if somebody keeps crossing your boundaries and you've told them, sometimes you have to get, okay, this is probably not the right word, but this is the word I'm going to use, violent with your response to make them back the fuck off.
Well, and the thing is, like, not answering her yesterday after what she had said to me, like, because
Hmm.
I wanted to respond, and I had asked Desiree, I'm like, do I respond to her? And Desiree gave me her opinion, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna walk away and like distance myself from this person, and hopefully they'll get the hint that I'm not talking to them.
Yeah.
And then they say good morning, and I'm like, it's almost like I feel obligated to say morning, good morning back.
Hmm.
And like just the vile shit she's been saying over the last 3 days, I'm like, you're supposed to be my support.
Is she saying racist stuff about you or to you? Like, neither is okay, but I'm just trying to get
No,
context.
no, it's like just like I made a logo for a company that I want to own with my brother and a couple of my friends, so we can get in and like it says make Canada Indigenous again, but in the middle it's gonna say no more Stolen Sisters, MMIW G2S,
Hmm.
and then it's gonna say land back, and it's gonna have like something around it, right? And I just showed her the prototype of what that's racist. That's not inclusive.
That's not racist. I don't. I.
And I'm like, okay, well, like I explained it to her on the picture so she wouldn't think it's racist, and oh no, that's racist.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
don't.
it's not inclusive to white people.
That's,
Okay, I'm sorry,
well, you have a right to not be inclusive to white
right?
people. I think anyway. I
And,
wouldn't
and,
say that, but I know what, I know the type of person that would say that it is too,
right,
and
and
it's
so.
the same type
Uh,
that don't understand why white lives matter isn't a thing.
Right, well, and it's racist as well because it's taking away from the things that actually, and I'm not saying they don't matter because that would be wrong of me to say they don't matter, but they don't have to have a movement in order to stay alive and to help them, find their loved ones. And it's just emotional regulation.
Yeah,
I'm trying to emotionally regulate myself,
yeah,
and I
and that's
can't
important. Yeah,
stop.
but it
And I
can be
want to
hard.
shut down, and then I want to yell at her, and then I want to shut down, and then I want to yell at her. It's like my brain wants to just yell.
Yeah, and might have you thought about writing down how you feel about this, and sending it to her, like, in written form somehow? Like, that's probably a bit communicating, but maybe write it
I
out.
tried.
Yeah,
Or not even sending it to her, but
yeah,
writing it
just
out,
write it out to get it
get
out.
it out of your whole system.
Yeah. You may not be able to change the way that she thinks. In fact, you probably can't. But you can still at least express how it makes you feel, and you can tell her. Like, I can't change the way you think, but this makes me feel uncomfortable because, or
Right.
this,
And then
right? And I would really like it if we didn't go down this path, you
it's
know?
like I don't talk, and this is why I don't talk to my friends out here
Hmm.
because of that, right? So it's oh, I have. Trust me, she's moved, and I've separated myself from her.
Yeah.
But it's
But it could be hard because friends are a part of our emotional self-care sometimes, like having these friendships. But if it's taking from you more than it's giving to you, then it's something to consider whether or not it's something that maybe you just don't want to continue, you know, with her.
yeah, it's I'm eventually just gonna slip away into like the abyss.
Yeah, you're gonna.
I'm gonna be like the one ship that goes down to like the Bermuda Triangle and just disappears because that's like where I'm like I see our relationship ending.
Yeah.
Right? Like just disappearing off the face of the earth and not saying a word to anybody.
Well, some
But it's
things
like
we have certain values, and there are certain values that we have, like maybe not being racist, that are game changers for us, right? That are.
it literally it's all over the fact that I told non-melanated people to stop telling black, brown, and indigenous people to go to their own country.
Mhm.
That's literally all I said, and this is all it's over.
Yeah, and that's a hard
And
one.
it's been 3 days, and she can't get
Yeah.
over it.
I think what's difficult when we have friendships that, and Marcy and I talked about this yesterday, friendships that we've had for a long time, and then something like this happens, we have to figure out ways to grieve
Mhm.
the death of that friendship, because it will never be the same, and that there's a whole grieving process to that as well. And then on top of that, there's a betrayal that you
Mhm.
have to navigate through as well, and it's really hard to do that,
Well,
you
and there's
know.
the disappointment there too, with a friend who you thought got you, and then all of a sudden,
That's,
you
yeah,
know,
that's the betrayal part.
yeah,
Like
the disappointment.
you know me, and you know me, but now you've betrayed me because you've lied to me about your viewpoint this whole time.
Mhm.
You know, like it's and I, even a few years ago I went through that with a friend,
Mhm.
and it wasn't for me. My visceral reaction is to slam shut. That's my go-to, that I've been doing since I was a kid, and I know this from the trauma healing workshops,
Yeah.
and I get to a point where I just cannot communicate at all with that person. I want nothing to do with them. I will not comment on their Facebook stuff. I will not call them. And I guess it's a defense mechanism too,
Yeah.
to preserve myself, you
And you
know.
know, I should have seen the signs when she would get like a little testy with me, and I should have seen that she was a supporter of the 45th,
Oh, is
but I
she?
didn't.
Yeah.
And then when she told me, she said, "I stopped supporting Donald Trump." By the way, I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even know you were like it didn't even phase me because I know her for so long that I didn't see the blinders coming off my eyes until like I wrote that comment, and I'm like, are you like?" So, and again, getting back on topic here, I understand like it's hard. Like emotional
Mhm.
regulation is hard for me
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
an extremely over emotional creature. And then my dad's like, "You have way too many emotions, my girl." I'm like,
Yeah.
"I'm sorry that the boob life chose me and I didn't choose it."
Yeah, no, there's no such thing as too many emotions.
Exactly.
It's,
I was going to
that's
say
that's
Well,
not
I,
fair.
it can be hard when they get strong very quickly.
Yeah,
well, no, and I tell my dad about my, and like this is gonna put a strain on me
Hmm.
trusting white women again.
Yeah.
It's just
So, so what do you think you want to do with this? Are you just going to let this relationship slip away, or are you going to just be
no,
honest with her maybe and tell her that I'm sorry, but there are some things that are just outside of our values are not the same, right? Like, because,
I might say something to her when I at least calm down, because right now I
yeah,
really just
absolutely.
want to rip her fucking head off.
No, definitely wait. I've made that mistake with things in the past. Like, always wait until you're in a good place. When you're angry is not the time to talk to someone. Process how you're feeling about it first, because it's going to have an effect on you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're essentially deciding whether or not you're going to lose a friend, and that's a tough one. And if you
Well,
choose
I've
to
already lost a
emotionally,
friend because she showed
yeah,
me who she really is, and that's the hardest part. I've
it's a
known her since I was 8. I've known her since I was 18.
oh, that's a long time.
Yeah, so I went to high school with her, junior high with her. I didn't really know her until I was like actually
Yeah,
of age, and she's younger than she's a little like she's 2 years younger than I am, and she's anyway. Enough
it's
about that. It's just it's a friendship that's gonna be hard to let go, but it's gonna have to be, and I'm just gonna have to walk away, and she's gonna have to deal with it.
yeah,
Her
it's your
consequences.
loss.
Um, I wasn't trying to hurt anybody by what I said. I was just being honest about my feelings. They just because one person said it. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's
Um,
every day I get told to go back to my own country,
and
and
standing
then
up for Indigenous rights is not racism. Like, it's
no,
just
and telling me that my culture is a fucking organization because they won't let
oh,
you join. Yeah, that's pretty much over the edge.
yeah,
I'm
that's not it at all. You don't get to join being Indigenous. You either are or you aren't.
right. Well, and she's like, well, can I
You
be
can have an
indigenous?
interest in Indigenous culture. That's different. But
Right, but like, yeah, they have it half-ass backwards, and it just it. But like going back to like emotional healing and emotional regulation, and I started cleaning my house at 5 this morning, took a nap, and I was out. Like I couldn't sleep earlier. Like I don't know. My schedule is like completely off, and I think I have to do those soft sounds.
yeah, ASMR or
No, not ASMR. It's like it's for children. They have these things where you can like regulate their.
yeah. Well, one thing that I learned that helps a lot of people is you want to stimulate both sides of the brain. It's called the butterfly. And it's something you could try if you want. You just basically put one hand on one side. Don't mind my gloves, my arthritis is acting up.
Oh, you're
And
good.
one hand on the other, and you tap while breathing. And what you're doing is you're stimulating the right and left side of your brain when you do that. And it's often taught to children. And it can be very calming when you're feeling dysregulated to just tap
Yeah.
while you're breathing.
And the next thing I'm going to say is going to come out really funny. I have a squishy cow and a squishy brain.
Hmm.
They're they are my squeeze toys, like they're
Yeah,
stress toys.
they work.
It just I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one. And yeah, just
I
make
just
sure
have to find
to
them.
get your to box breathe if you're feeling really stressed. Do you know what box breathing is?
No.
It's just a four-step breathing pattern where you breathe in for a count of four, hold for a count of four, breathe out for a count of four, and then wait for a count of four. So it just regulates your breathing. So it just
Yeah.
counts to four. And they call it box breathing because it's easy to picture. You breathe, hold,
Yeah.
release, hold, breathe, and just keep
Yeah.
doing that pattern, and that can be really calming too.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm all over the map. I'm sorry. I do apologize. It's
That's
just
okay. That's okay. It sounds like you're having a bit of a day. But I was going to talk about also negative self-talk is another thing that a lot of us do when our emotional, and we can really help our emotional self-care by not talking ourselves down all the time. And it just something you said made me kind of think of that, because it like we tend to be hard on ourselves, and it's okay to feel, and it's okay to have these feelings and give yourself time to process them, right? Like it's totally normal, and there's no such thing as too much feelings, right?
and again, my dad never meant it like I'm not supposed to have emotions. He
Yeah,
meant it as like maybe I need to like take a step back from everything and just breathe.
yeah.
'Cause I got mad at him too. I was like, why would you say that I have too many emotions?
Well, right. And there's no such thing as too many emotions. So it's more of a matter of just giving yourself time to kind of process and figure out what you're feeling. Because our emotions can often be mislabeled. A lot of time, for
Oh
example,
yeah.
if we're angry, it's really fear. Or if we're, if we're really sad, sometimes we're angry. Like, so it's sometimes it's good to just sit back and really think about what.
Yeah,
What
what
did
the underlying emotion is, because that emotion that comes out is often not the one that is actually the trigger.
Mhm.
see? And it's really funny that you say that. I don't I don't shut down completely like I used to shut down completely.
Mhm.
Lately, I've just been like cleaning my house when I'm angry because it's my way of like almost not just breathing, but it's my way of clarifying my head. Because
Yeah.
if I'm in a clean space, if I'm in a if my house is clean, my mind is clean. And I don't, and I'm trying to explain that to people. They're like, that doesn't make sense, but I get it.
Oh,
Like, I
clutter.
don't understand how you don't understand that, but okay, everybody's different, right?
Exactly. There's no right or wrong, and I wish I had that smarty. But
I have never seen my kitchen cleaner lately.
yeah, because you're stressed, and it gives you something to. There's something very Buddhist actually about that, because like, I'm trying to think of one of the Buddhists saying, if you're going to sweep, sweep with your whole heart. Like, it's a type of mindfulness, and you probably find cleaning calming because you're focused on doing something, right? So your mind isn't necessarily all over the place because you're focused on scrubbing that sink or washing that counter. So it's a
And I
kind of
mean,
mindfulness.
and then the thing is, I've got Desiree in the same city, so when it gets a little bit warmer and the snow melts, we're gonna hang out. Like, I mean, there's that. And then, I have my dad and my mom and my sister. So I have my family, but I don't have my entire family. Like, I don't talk to my mom's family. And it's
Yeah.
for a reason I don't talk to
Yeah,
them.
and that's
It
the
just turns
boundaries, right?
bad.
If I have some family members that are very anti-Trudeau. They're part of the F Trudeau brigade, and I haven't talked to them in
Yes.
a year. Their extended family, that I'm an aunt that I used to be really close with, and I still love her. I just can't. Like,
Yeah,
because it comes up, and I just can't.
my
Well,
mother, I finally had to completely cut her off, because, my mother is white. She does the YT woman tears
yeah.
very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
she
does my
turns
mom.
everything around like nothing is her fault. She has never apologized at all for anything,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
and um, for my own safety, emotionally and mentally, I had to do it.
Yeah.
And I do not feel bad about it.
No,
I
you.
don't feel guilty about it. I don't regret it. It was actually very freeing for me
Mhm.
to not have to hang on to that parent child loyalty,
Yeah.
and it's it's I think as it's one of the hardest things as women that
Mhm.
we grapple with when we have to let go of a parent.
Well, we feel that responsibility because they took care of us, right?
Well,
To a certain degree. Uh,
yes.
to a certain degree, but yeah, but you have to do, like, if somebody's beliefs are so far out from your own that you can't communicate, then setting a boundary, is something that you can do.
That's like I made a vow to myself, and this is strictly a vow to myself. It's not. I do have conservative friends. I have friends with conservative views, some
Mhm.
conservative views,
Yeah.
but I refuse to ever date a man who's conservative. I will not put myself in that situation.
Yeah. No,
And
that's.
the amount of people that think I'm like restarted because I won't use that actual word
Yeah.
because they have said the actual word and they're like, that's restarted. I'm like, no, actually, it's not. It's
Yeah.
a protection mechanism for myself because I know what conservative values hold. And
Yeah,
the
and they're not your
conservative,
values,
and they're
so.
not my values at all. And, doing the emotional help, self-care, and it's just, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I can get my house clean just listening to you guys. Like, I got my house cleaned yesterday listening to Nerdy and then being in the box, but like being on mute. And I got to eat dinner and clean my house. And My
Yeah.
room is like half actually a room,
You
and
know, if you run out of things to clean, no, I'm just kidding.
right? And that's the thing, like I have actually gotten called years ago. I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I got called to clean friends' houses, and I mean, they're like, oh, it's one of those nightmare situations, and I get it clean, and they're like, I can do it in 9 hours. I'm like, because I clean, like, I don't just clean, I clean things, I bleach things, disinfect things, just it it's weird.
No, it makes
Cleaning is
sense.
cathartic for me, and I've always been that way in the last 10, 20 years, and I can't seem to do it for myself right now because, I'm
But
depressed and it,
cleaning is a way when we're cleaning, when we're focusing on cleaning or doing whatever,
Mhm,
it gives our brain a chance to compartmentalize and figure out what we want to say to somebody or how we want to react to that person
mhm,
or how we want to deal with that situation without it being at the forefront. That's what I find with me is if I just go off and do something, my brain figures out a way for me to get through it.
mhm.
right.
Yeah. And then yeah, it can be really helpful that way. Let's talk a little bit about professional self-care because a lot of people don't know about this one. So this is this kind of self-care you do in whatever work you do. Is there anything, Treaty?
Yeah, I could share.
Yeah, you want to share? And if
I
anybody
love
else
hearing
wants to come up as
Trudy.
a guest, we've got some spots left. All you got to do is click on the dual guests at the bottom of the screen, tap, 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 and remember to gift the panel. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'll give you a little backstory. So, we're in my previous employment position,
Mm-hmm.
which was for a First Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And I had joined this First Nation with having a background working in corporate Canada, working for the government of Alberta, working for the government of Canada. And then coming to a First Nation and being with those experiences, and then
Yeah.
being faced with doing basically 4 full-time jobs with less than half the resources and half the income. Um, I was burnt out. And that too is when I realized it was time for me to put alcohol away as the tool to cope because it was just becoming too much. And then, like, couple that with lateral violence. And then also, not only that, you have the lateral violence, but in my job, because I work in protection of Indigenous rights and the environment. So I'm constantly fighting with corporations, constantly fighting with the government of Canada or government of Alberta. Government of Canada, not so much. They're very supportive. So
Yeah.
when I left there finally, I had both my husband and I, because Perry was working there as the water operator.
Yeah.
So that's a high stress job too, because the community's drinking water is your responsibility. He basically had that job to himself, but he did have helpers that kind of came and went. We had put away a little bit of cash for a renovation.
Yeah.
And we left our jobs and we lived on that money for 6 months. So we don't have our renovation. But in that 6 months, it took me, because I would get up in the night to go to the bathroom, say, and I could feel my shoulders still up around my ears. You know what I mean? That tense, and after about the third month, I finally felt my shoulders were dropping.
Yeah.
So it took me, and I still don't totally feel healed from the burnout, but that 6 months definitely helped. And in that 6 months, made a commitment to myself to be very firm to my boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I don't answer emails at night. I don't look at, if I don't get into it, I don't get to it. And if the way I function now as a consultant doesn't work for my clients, then I'm not the right consultant for you. And I've had to stick to those boundaries. And of course, like, I really try to work Tuesday to Thursday. That's it. Because we're poor, basically. We're probably middle class, but we don't have retirement money. Like, I have to work till I'm dead. So
Yeah, I feel you.
yeah. So if I have to do that, I'm working on my terms.
Yep.
And that was so liberating to me to find those boundaries and then work really hard on myself to stick to them. And you know what? It's worked. I haven't lost a client. People respect them. People ask me, like, how are you doing it? I'm like, I just do it. if I don't get to it, I don't get to it, and that's the way it is, and I'm not going to stress out about it.
Yeah, and
So,
it sounds like you set really firm boundaries, which is really important.
and
With
I
your,
know it's hard. Like people are like, a lot of people are like, how can you do it? And I didn't know I could do it either. But
Mhm.
that 6 months was truly a gift to kind of just skate through life for a little bit, you know. But
Well,
and I know not everybody has that.
so many of us bring work home with us now that never used to, with cell phones and computers, and like we can check our work email. We can, like, you used to, 30 years ago, you walked out of work and you were done.
Yeah. And
Now you
even
have a cell phone attached to you 24/7, and you access to your email. And there, with that, I think comes an expectation from some employers that you're going to be checking said email, but you
absolutely.
shouldn't have to be when it's not work hours. And
And aren't there countries that have actually written laws about that now too? That if it's illegal for employers to expect any type of response after hours, like Blackberries. Remember when they came out and you could check, and it was seemed cool. Oh, right on. I can kind of keep on top of my emails.
yeah,
Oh my God, what a mistake that was. Because
yeah.
now we feel guilty if we don't.
When I got my new phone, I didn't upload my Outlook for work on it when I switched my phone last time, and I'm not going to, because I can't help it. If it's there and all I got to do is press a button, I'm going to look, and it's not good for my self care. So I make it harder
I
for me. I have to go to my laptop if I want to, and I'm not going to do that after hours. So
what
Yeah,
yeah,
that's really
you and
smart.
like what you and Trudy said. Oh God, it was probably couple. It was a long time ago. I went through all my emails
yeah,
on my laptop, and I tell you what, I had about 64,000 emails on one account.
yeah.
Then I had to go through another email that I had made because I forgot the password to the other one.
Hmm.
In total, I went through 250,000 plus messages, and some of them slipped through the crack because my brain's like, oh, it's just junk mail. I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I like giggled, and my mom's like, what? I'm like, these are some important messages I should have looked at. She looks at me, she goes, squirrel? I'm like, yeah, squirrel, like squirrel and shiny things. Like that's what my brain attracts to. If
Yeah.
it's not in my face, if it's not like you're not hounding me
Hmm.
and I'm not setting alarms for it, I will not remember to do a damn thing.
So that's another way you can self care, though, is scheduling, right? So that
Yeah.
you have, because like I'm very disorganized. I'm ADD, so I need to really like write down a schedule for myself of what I'm doing when, and I find that really helpful, to know what I need to do during a week. And again, setting those boundaries, not for my employer because they're pretty good at not crossing them right now, but for myself.
Okay.
And knowing when, I think one of the things with employers is knowing, or with your job, is caring about what you do. And you can care about any job. Like it just, it needs to matter. I find this is for me anyway, that what I do, I was working at a bank for a while when I had my first child. And it was a terrible environment. So that's another thing, is like, how is your environment at work? And if it's not good, what can you do to change it? And in some cases, that might be in leaving a job and finding a different one if it's a really
I,
toxic environment and you can't change it.
I
Uh,
had to do that
mm,
because I was working at Walmart
yeah,
and the safety prevention at that job, oh God, it was wild, okay? Like they were expecting cashiers to stop people from walking out of the store one night with a TV when we all have cash registers that we're working at. They're like,
yeah,
can you stop that criminal? I'm like, yeah, I'll leave my till right open and just, catch a criminal and let another criminal come. Like, I'm sorry that you're losing staff. Like, maybe get more staff. I don't know what to tell
you're not
you.
security. Yeah, that's not your
I
job
wasn't
description.
hired as security. I'm not going to be security. And I've done we take turns with rotation with the uh greeters. Well, they did anyway. I don't know if they do it anymore. And I'm sitting there and they're like, you need to like watch this couple. I'm like, okay. So I'm like watching them and I'm doing the receipts and I'm asking them for the receipt. And this one person's like,
Yeah,
the person I'm supposed to be watching comes up to me and is trying to distract me. I'm like, ma'am, you need to move along. Like, can I check your receipt for everything? Because the
yeah,
kid had an open toy,
right.
right? And I didn't know if they had bought the toy, I can't say like, have you stolen that? And I just have to be like, hey,
Did you pay
can
for it?
you
Yeah.
show me? Oh, I stopped. I couldn't do it. And then they're like, oh, you gotta watch this other person. I'm like, I'm not doing your job
Yeah.
because you're not doing mine. If
Hmm.
you want to step up and do my job, I'll step up and do your job. I no problem.
Yeah. And that's,
And
yeah, having
it
your
was just I
boundaries.
had to walk away.
Yeah. It can be really hard to leaving. Like I realized when I had this job that I was being bullied there by one of the other staff members was very what's the word I'm looking for? Very high energy and very she'd been there a lot longer than me, so she was faster than me at doing some things, but she wasn't very good about it. Like she'd just come and grab things off my desk in a huff or slam things down when she was frustrated. Like she was, and it wasn't always about me. This was just her behaviors at work. And it made me really uncomfortable because like she was one of those people that would come in a room and, gasping and slamming things around and, being loud about being frustrated about things and just like a real negative energy.
Oh
And
yeah.
it really was not, and it was not fun to be around, but it was also sometimes directed at me. She even, she reported me for taking Advil, which my doctor had prescribed to me because I had a bad back after having my first baby. And she reported me for, I had an interview with my boss about Advil as,
What?
as if I was an addict. We're talking over the counter Advil.
Oh my God.
So, but
That
yeah, it was like she was just looking for reasons to get, you
well,
know,
I had
heated.
after I made sure I found a job before I quit my Walmart job,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting there, and for whatever reason, this woman that I was this older woman I was working with, she was my supervisor. She was telling me how to do things, and then my dad comes down and he's like, "No, you guys are doing things wrong." I'm like, "Well, you told me to listen to her, so I don't know what you want me to do." So we had a conversation outside, and then she's like, "What's the conversation you and your dad had?" I'm like, "That's between me and my dad. If you want to
Mhm.
understand what we're talking about, go ask him." And then everybody started like jumping in the conversation, and I'm like, "You guys, we're having a conversation. It's about work. You need to back off."
Right.
And it was just like everybody's like, "Oh my God, you're in trouble." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in trouble because I listened to the wrong person giving
Yeah.
me the wrong ideas." And then my dad tried giving her constructive criticism and then saying, "Hey, instead of just, waiting to do the tubs later, because we were a construction cleanup crew and it
Yeah.
was just the two of us, we were doing all the like cleanup for the construction site." And everybody's like, "Why are you yelling at your daughter?" My dad's like, "She's not my daughter when she's here."
Right.
Like we try to make it professional as possible, and some people made some derogatory comments, and I shut them up. Or my dad's like, "Hey, like, do you want a job? Like, I'm not gonna fire you because you're not doing your job. I'm gonna fire you because you're starting shit,
Right.
and we're not gonna do that. We're not having this." And it was one thing after another with this woman. And I said, "You know what? If you don't like how I'm doing things, you do it yourself." And I walked away. I told
Yeah.
my dad, "Come get me. I'm done. I give up." And he's like,
Yeah.
"You have 3 days left." I'm like, "No, I'm done. Like, I'm just fucking done. Like, I can't do this. Physically,
Yeah.
emotionally, and mentally, being a single mom, going to college, and
Yeah.
taking care of my kid, I can't do this."
Yeah. That is a lot on anybody's plate.
And I
I
walked
wanted,
away.
yeah, I wanted to ask Trista their age and give Trista a chance to chime in because they've been here a while. Hey, Trista, how old are you?
41.
41. Awesome. And what kind of things do you do for professional self care? Do you have a job?
I have, yeah, well, I've been a preschool teacher for 21 years.
Oh,
And
then self care is very important.
yeah, until I ran myself into chronic pain.
Yeah.
So now I am actually on, yeah, I'm on like a medical leave because I have peripheral neuralgia, trigeminal neuralgia, and occipital neuralgia. I have full body nerve pain from head to toe.
What causes that?
Pardon?
Is like that stone thing, the neuralgia?
Yeah,
Or
it's like a full
wow,
body nerve pain. So
that sounds awful.
it is awful. Yeah, and it was actually brought on, I think, because of stress, because of a hypervigilant job. Even though I have very good boundaries. My therapist
Yeah.
tells me that all the time. But yeah, it just, so the caretaking aspects of jobs sometimes, if you're giving, your whole self, even if you love something, it can, yeah, I've just realized that boundaries for me were even more, I thought I was doing a good job until it was too much. I gaslit myself.
And boundaries is only a piece of it, right? Like there's still that's a lot being a preschool teacher.
Yeah, when it takes hypervigilance. So I always was like thinking that I had my hypervigilance in check.
Right.
And that's what I mean. I thought I had, um, I was kind of fooling everyone in my life as well as myself. And then, yeah, just I got nerve pain out of no. I woke up one day and my whole body hurt. I was having shooting pains up my back. I couldn't move. And now they're trying to figure out what's wrong with me, which is in and of itself. But it's just been like, I finally realized like I can be the only person that can be selfish for myself is me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I finally am giving that like love that I've always wanted from externally, to myself.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it took getting here. So learn from me. Also, Jana, I wanted to come up because where'd you get your gloves? Because I need brushing gloves, and
I
I've been
got
looking
them. I
everywhere.
honestly got these ones off Amazon, and I'm trying not to use Amazon, but
Okay, you got them from Amazon.
yeah, they're
Thank
just a
you so
size
much.
medium, and they're just arthritis gloves. I don't bother with the copper ones. I don't think the copper makes a difference.
Thank
But
you. I appreciate that.
yeah, they just kind of hug your fingers, and it doesn't hurt as much because my
I
knuckle.
No,
Yeah.
thank you, because I have really bad joint pain as well in my hands and from I think the inflammation. So thank you. I've been looking for some. I couldn't find them anywhere, but I will get them from Amazon. Thank you. And Smarshy, I wanted to say to you, um, I've had to dump friends before too. And
Yeah.
so my heart goes out to you because
Thank you.
it's tough.
It's
It's
not
tough
easy.
when you expect
See, the
people
thing
to love you.
is, I think she does love me. She just doesn't have the right way of showing it. Because again, she's good when she's not good. Like she's good when she's good,
Yep.
and it's just oh my God, it's mind-boggling because I've known her for so long.
Yeah. It's going to be a loss. It's going to take some time for sure. Desiree, did you have any ideas on what you can do for professional self care, like in your work, to make sure that you're as healthy as you can be?
Well, it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
I finished at the clinic Christmas of 2023,
Couple
you
years.
know, um, which was actually the best place I ever worked at, like my whole entire career, aside from the garden store.
Mm-hmm.
But the garden store, I was the head of my department of shipping and receiving.
Yep.
And that was a whole different. And what's interesting is I had three bosses, and all three of them were owners, and none of them stressed me out.
Nice.
They were very encouraging and encouraging me to kind of take control. I can't, but they were very encouraging. And one of them I'm still connected with on Facebook only because he has a Facebook account.
Yep.
But that job, in its nature, being the shipper receiver for 8 stores,
Mm-hmm.
was very stressful because I had schedules to keep
Yep.
for 8 stores and deliveries to 8 stores. 3 of them were on Vancouver Island.
Ooh.
So it was, there were days, this is the beginnings of when my brain was not shutting off.
Right.
So I'd get to work the next day and I'd have the whole day planned already
Yeah.
in my sleep, but I loved working there,
Yes.
and I loved the control that they allowed me to have over my department,
Mm-hmm.
and that alleviated a lot of what could have been stressful,
Right.
you know. And then I worked at another place. The woman micromanaged us so hard that when I finally left there, it took me 3 days before I realized I didn't have to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so stressed that I was misspelling words, basic words. I was switching letters around,
Mm.
and I'm kind of a grammar. police, right? I've pulled back on that a lot, on in pointing out there, and there, and all that, But so for me, that I'm misspelling basic words was a huge red flag,
Yeah.
and it was the worst, the absolute worst place I had ever worked at. And that was in 2013,
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, my experiences have been kind of all over the map with jobs because, I've done everything from serving to shipping, receiving,
Yeah.
to medical administrative assistant, you know.
Wow. A lot of
And,
diversity.
and kudos to Treaty because the work that she was doing before the 6 months, I don't think I could have done it.
Yeah,
Really don't. That is a lot of pressure. You
it
know,
is.
it just, I've always been aware that I needed some form of protection mentally,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, no, the worst place I worked at, it wasn't the worst place, but the worst boss I ever had. I was working for Greyhound
Mm-hmm.
in at the coast, and I was switching to the head office in Calgary. And the person who ran that department was a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Come on out, you can stay with me." Blah blah blah. So I came out ahead of the kids and their dad, and stayed with her. I was there for just shy of 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The last week, she pulls me into her office and wants to have a talk with me because she felt I wasn't washing my hair enough.
Okay.
What?
That's
Now, she was a YT woman,
ah
right? And anybody who knows that black
Yep.
women cannot wash their hair every
mhm.
single day.
Nope.
Not every second day, not every third day, not every fourth day. You know,
Different texture. Like I
Yep.
completely.
yeah,
But the
completely
fact that
different.
she pulled in what was going on outside of work into work
Yeah.
was like, I was stunned. I was actually, um, just so stunned that she had the nerve,
Yeah.
period, and then to do this at work.
Mm-hmm.
The caucasity level of that woman saying that to you is unreal.
Yeah. So what I did is I called the supervisor back and quit them, and I bumped back into my old position,
Yeah.
and then I was gone. I stayed with my sister who lives in the Crow's Nest Pass for a couple days,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went back to the coast,
Yeah.
but it's,
I'm
it's,
so sorry that happened because that's just ignorant
it
on
is,
several
but
levels.
it's in line with other things that I have experienced, just not a boss
Yeah.
necessarily, you know, but just random people.
I've
I've been,
never. Sorry, Desiree. I'm trying to be less over talking. I
that's
have never heard of anyone in their job doing that. I had a now ex-best friend, thank God. We were talking about skin complexions, and I was like, I don't know what I am. And I was joking around. Maybe I'm chocolate or something. Maybe I'm like chocolate or mocha or something. She goes, no, you're like moose meat. My skin tone was the color of moose meat. I'm like, actually, no, that would be red because usually meat
Yeah.
is red. She's like,
Yeah.
no, you're not like. And I was like, I was floored. I was like,
Marshy. It's Marshy. When the kid's dad and I separated, I had gone back because the kids would stay at his place sometimes, and he had gotten a new girlfriend, and I had pulled in and he wasn't there, and my daughter said, "Oh, him and so went to get groceries." So I'm waiting, and he comes back and he pulls around the corner, right? Pulls into the driveway, and he's got this YT woman in the car. He is YT as well,
oh wow.
and he kind of sits there for a minute, and I know he's trying to figure out what he's going to say to me, right? So we get out of the car. He gets out of the car, And he goes to the trunk and pops the trunk and he introduces us. And she looks at me and she says, "Nice tan."
Mm,
Wow.
And I immediately put my head in the passenger side of my car and burst out laughing.
yeah.
They,
At least you could laugh it off.
but it was the most ridiculous thing, that is like nice tan. Okay, if you think so.
Yeah, so we have nice tan and moose meat fucking skin color. Like, I don't know what's more offensive, the fact that they think this or the fact that they say it out loud. And these are the white people that we.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is, yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to personal self-care. This is a more fun one for me. Oh, and some I just wanted to mention with professional self-care, some good tips to know. Take your breaks. If you work, know what breaks you're entitled to and take your breaks is really important. Do something with your time that is different from work, that gets you out of it. Like everybody is different. When I take breaks, for example, I like to be quiet. So if I'm in an office, I will go find a quiet office that's not being used or a room because I just need quiet time. I need downtime.
And we
Other people are the opposite and need social time.
and that's
Uh,
like with my dad when he was like my supervisor, my higher up supervisor, I guess you could say.
yeah.
He was like, I'm like, Dad, I need a break. He's like, you just got off lunch. I'm like, I need a break. He's like, why? I'm like, because I'm going to hurt someone,
Hmm.
and they're gonna have. And my dad's like, oh Jesus Christ, what happened? So my dad will come down with me,
Yeah.
and he's like, no, like the lady I was working with, like, you just got off lunch like an hour ago. I'm like, if I don't get off this like floor and I don't go outside and decompress and like just sit down for a minute,
Hmm.
you are gonna be hurt. So it's
Yeah.
either you
But you
or
know
I
your
leave.
boundaries. Yeah.
And my dad's like, yeah, no, you don't want to poke that beast. And my dad's like, I've seen her, man. Don't. And everybody's like, you just got off lunch like 20, like an hour, 20, 30, 20 minutes to an hour ago. I'm like, I don't care. Like, if I feel like I'm being, because it was like, and like in the dark or in the like
Yeah.
construction area, there's not enough light in that area
Yeah.
to get everything. And I'm already feeling trapped and claustrophobic.
Mm,
And I'm like, okay, I'm trapped and claustrophobic, and you're in my face all the time,
yeah.
telling me when I'm not doing fast enough. And I'm like, I told my dad I can't. I'm like, I'm so gonna hurt someone.
Yeah.
And I just walk away. And then I just said to my dad, I'm like, I can't. I have to take a break. I took
Yeah.
2 days off.
Yeah.
I
So
I
take your
just
break.
want to
Take your
say
vacation time is another one because a lot of people rack up their vacation time or sick time and never take it when they need it.
Oh, I
Uh,
never got sick time. I just told my dad like I can't come into work today, and I
yeah.
just let her know.
I want to say something to Sparkle Shine in the comments. She
Hmm.
takes her crochet or knitting to work.
Hmm.
I When I was with my ex, not the kid's dad, um, I would come home and I would crochet because that's how I would deal with all the narcissistic BS. I was making at least one baby blanket in 5 days.
Wow. You're very fast too.
But that's all I would do. I would come home and I would crochet, and
Hmm.
that was it. So that was not, even though, yeah, they all ended up being gifts, and I had a few for a few years later on to gift.
Yeah.
That wasn't very healthy for me.
Yeah.
I, because it was an escape at
JD,
that point. It wasn't even enjoyable.
Right. And you want to make sure that what you're doing is something that's going to be enjoyable for you. Like I love knitting or crocheting because I can
I
focus on something other than my thoughts, right? Because I'm counting stitches or
I
rows.
Davy.
Hi, Mace. Just give us a second. We'll introduce you in a minute,
Okay,
okay?
okay. What is the topic?
We're talking about mental health here, and
Okay, okay. I just want to join your conversation.
okay. Well, we'll get to you in just a few minutes. I'm just going to go through my panel here and give everyone a chance to talk, and then you'll be next. Thank you. Okay, so Treaty, what kinds of things do you do for personal self-care? And that can look like so many things. Anything that just makes you feel better about what's going on.
Was that me you were asking?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, what kinds of things do you do to help with your personal life, with your own self-care? And that's usually like things like things you do to maybe distract or take care of your soul, things you love doing.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, for me, it's really being outside.
Yep.
Gardening in the summer. Like, Desiree, I'm really curious about what you were saying about poppy seeds. Before I forget, I'll reach out to you later. But, um, so for me, it really is just outside. We have our pets. Like, Perry and I have dogs and two cats, and they really mean a lot to us too. And, um, we have elderly parents,
Mm-hmm.
and spending time with them also can be both, sometimes hard, but also self-care.
Mm-hmm.
I wish, I think about it all the time. I need to be more active. I used to do yoga, at least 3 times a week. I don't know why I stopped, but I have, and I'm trying to make myself get back into that.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I struggle with finding a routine, right? Outside of the walking, because the dogs make me, they know 2 o'clock, it's time for a walk. And even if I'm on a Teams meeting or whatever, they come up, like, it's amazing how they can tell time, but they know that it's time for a walk because it's around the time we always go.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggle with that. But really, that's all I've got for that. Like, self-care right now for me is just being outside. And like I was saying earlier too, even I know it can be detrimental to be on social media too much, but this is sometimes my self-care as well. It's layered, right? I think we're in tough times and it's hard to
We are.
sort
And
it all out.
I find like self-care for me sometimes is just listening to other people's TikToks and learning something new. Like that can be enough. It doesn't have to be it's, like sometimes time off social media is good too, but um,
Yeah.
I find being just watching other people's TikToks can be very relaxing too.
And
Uh,
also validating,
mhm.
because it's hard right now, to find the folks that are like-minded,
Yeah,
and it's nice when we find each other here.
it is.
Right. And it is validating, because there are times even now, like having this circle that we have with Beaver politics, and,
Mhm.
the folks that we've connected through that. And I still sometimes like, are we the crazy ones?
Well, we've created a sense of community, like an online
Yeah.
community, and that
Yeah.
really is helpful because it's a support. There are people that are going to understand how you're feeling about something that just happened, and with Donald Trump, that's every day.
Exactly. And
Uh,
where in my professional life, like, I still have a lot of folks that are disconnected from what's going on, because, like, that's how they're dealing with it.
yeah.
I don't want to be those people that we're talking about in the States that now we're angry at, who were apathetic and didn't turn out.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to stay involved, but that's where I'm struggling with the self-care, is finding that balance.
Hmm.
But anyways, that's all I got.
So yeah, like some of the things I do, like I like building TikToks. That's actually in a weird way self-care for me because I feel like I'm being proactive and doing something that, like I said, if I change one person's mind, it was worth it.
And you're getting so good at it, I must say.
Am I?
Yes, that one you made a little while ago was awesome. I loved it. Well
Oh, the
done.
one I just put up this morning? Yeah,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to like do different things, be creative. I'm very creative. I did fine art school before I went for psychology. So I also have a college certificate in graphic design and fine art. So
Ooh.
I
I
love
might have to
creating.
pick your brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I love creating things. Well, I learned graphic art just before computers took over, like literally right then. And I realized I didn't really like advertising that much, like as a profession. It's still kind of fun to do logos and stuff like that, but as a profession, it wasn't really me. I more like the fine art aspect of things. Um, but and one of my favorite jobs like was working at an art supply store because it was just fun. I got paid nothing. I got paid a hair above minimum wage, but it was good fun. Um, but personal stuff like I love crocheting and knitting and creating, sketching, drawing, sewing. I sew too, and I've got too many hobbies. That's kind of a problem because I never get to do everything I want to do. But at least I know when I need to take a break from Stressful stuff, I can sit down and like crochet, I'm crocheting just a little headband right now, for example, or a scarf. And I have projects that are more detailed that I have to pay attention to, and then just ones that are just simple rows and mindless. Anyone that knits or crochets probably knows what I'm talking about. Like the stuff that you don't even have to really think about because it's the same thing or the same pattern over and over and over again. I find that repetition very mantra like, right? Because you're just doing the same thing over and over again. It's very mindful. So those are the kinds of things that I like.
Especially dishcloths.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
dishcloths
You
are great.
know,
I
you
love the crochet dishcloths. And coloring was something I started doing a couple winters ago, and I really like that too.
Hmm. Anything that just it gives you some time room for creativity, but also gives you the opportunity to focus on something other than your mind. I love I watch a lot of Asian dramas. I don't have as much time now because I've been doing a lot more political stuff. But I find I can really escape with Asian dramas because it's just such a different life. Like I love K dramas is probably my favorite, but I also really like Chinese dramas as too. And it's really very escapist for me because I'm learning about a different culture and a completely different life, and they almost always have happy endings. So it's not stressful in that way. I'm not wondering if all the characters are getting, it's a Stephen King novel and all the characters are going to get moved down one after another.
Right.
Those have their place and I love them, but I find it just chill to do that. And the subtitles keep me busy too. Yeah. So Desiree, what kind of things do you do personally?
personally, I mean, all the things that I mentioned before, the crocheting I have not done
Mm-hmm.
because, I did so much for 3 years.
Yeah.
I just couldn't pick up doing it after that separation, you
Fair
know,
enough.
and I have a 4 drawer dresser
Mm-hmm.
full of yarn, and I have one drawer in a 3 drawer wide plastic rolly cart
Yep.
full of yarn.
Wow.
But the
Wow.
dresser is buried right now because, the addition is not rebuilt kind of thing. So I will get into start doing that in the wintertime
Yep.
once there's room for it. Um, me, it's a puttering thing. Like I have, 30 some odd indoor plants that I take care of,
Oh, yeah.
and I have this little shithead of a cat that he's really sweet, but he has his moments
Mm-hmm.
where he's trying to eat the spider plant or he's breaking the Christmas cactus, or something, you know.
Mine's named Alex. Yeah.
Yeah,
I met her.
his name is Honeydew.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it- my husband calls him Fuzzy Nuts. um, I mean, it's like I had said earlier, it's pretty fluid
Yep.
on what I feel I need that day or that moment,
Mm-hmm.
or that hour kind of thing. And we have an enclosed porch on the front of our house.
Okay.
So it tends to be right now it's high, I think it's 31
Mm-hmm.
Celsius on the porch.
Oh
And
wow.
I've had to put cardboard back up because now the porch is getting too hot.
Yep.
Not that I'm complaining. What I'll probably do is
Right.
open the door because the inside of the house actually feels cooler than the porch right now.
Ah, yeah.
Right. So if we open the door, the furnace won't come on to
Yeah.
warm up inside the house. Um, I get just, I look around and I know like there's things that I need to do. We're not fully moved in to this
Mm-hmm.
house. Things aren't completely put away. Yeah, the bookshelves are up and there's stuff on the bookshelves and they're fairly organized, but there's all that fine tuning stuff
Yep.
that I know would be self care because then I don't have to keep looking at it and it
Yeah.
hanging over my head. Um, the other thing that is happening this coming week, which is for me,
Yeah.
is I have a colonoscopy scheduled.
Ah, yeah. Not
So
the most fun, but they give you some good medication for it.
yeah, and this is the
Just
third
be
one.
careful.
but when my father passed away, they were looking for bowel cancer. So
Yeah.
the self-care is to make sure I do everything for myself.
And that's a really good point because I think a lot of us let the physical health go too long sometimes,
Yeah,
right? After those
you
regular
know,
checkups and like I've got blood tests I was supposed to get 2 months ago. It's so
yeah,
easy to put these things
and
I
off.
you
have blood work I was supposed to do 2 years ago, and I'm still like dragging my heels.
Yeah.
oh,
And
you
I'm
know,
like,
Smarshy, I
No
understand
problem.
because that lab here is atrocious.
oh
And
yeah,
one lab for 67,000 people is is
yeah,
bad. It's bad. You
Yeah.
know, I was appalled the first time I went there.
oh yeah, it's
Fun.
absolutely
Like all of the
disgusting.
Dynalife or
There's only one Dynalife in Medicine Hat for 67,000 people.
Yeah,
oh
one.
my goodness.
And
That's
it's
Well, no,
always
there
full. It's
there
always
is
stuff.
there is the lab at the hospital, which is one hospital for 67,000 people,
yeah,
but
right.
it's hard to get into there. I mean, there was another one that did diagnostic testing. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's still up
Yeah.
because I haven't been there in years. I usually just go to the one by my house, but my God, I'm not even like so worried about like the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I'm terrified to get my blood test done because I'm so sick of being poked and prodded. I've been poked and prodded my entire life because of the
Yeah.
meningitis and them being worried that, I might have it might come back or there might be a flare up or like I've been to brain scans and brain scan and MRI and brain and EKGs and
Yeah.
ECGs and I'm tired of it. I don't care anymore. But my doctor is on my ass about this blood work, so I have to go
Is
get.
it because it hurts that you don't like to get it, or is it just the anxiety? Like,
No, it's just I don't want to do it anymore. I'm
yeah.
tired of doing it.
Yep.
And I explained to her like it's not that I don't have the means to get there. It's I'm tired of it. She goes, you have to. We
All
need
the
you for
more
two
reason why
years.
you need to get that blood work done.
Yeah.
I know, but I just I
And
can't.
as for like, if you have trouble, I have my veins move. It's a thing for some people. Some advice I've been given is to drink a lot of water before you go because apparently it just makes it easier because when you're hydrated, your veins are a little bit bigger.
Oh,
Yes.
I always drink water,
Yeah.
and I did have a problem with because my psychiatrist wants to put me on a new SSRI, which I don't want to take SSRIs
Mm-hmm.
because I've been off my SSRIs for like almost 2 months now,
Yeah.
and yes, my emotions are more stronger and I feel things more on a deeper level, but I'm not numb to like feeling anything,
Right.
and I fucking hate it. But yes, I will go. I will go get a sheet from my doctor
Yeah.
and I will get my blood work done, even though I don't want to. Fuck.
That's good. I know it's not fun. Like I sometimes I go out, I leave looking like I do intravenous drugs because of how many times they have to poke me before they can get a vein. Some like I've had both my arms and my hands done sometimes because my veins are just really small and they move in my
My
arm.
friend had rolling veins, I think is what
Yeah,
they're
that's what they
called,
call them. Yeah.
and they had to start doing her like pick line, like her not pick line, but her intravenous
Hmm.
in her feet.
Yep. I've had it done in my ankle before.
Oh,
It's
couldn't do that.
I'm usually like I usually just warn them when I go that my veins are hard to get and that because I've had people cry like I've made techs cry and I feel bad about it because it's not their fault either. My veins just are a pain in the butt. They move around and I'm pretty patient. Like I had to get blood tests every 2 days for almost a month when I had my first baby because my HCG levels were not high enough. And they wanted to make sure I wasn't going to miscarry. So I got a lot of needles that through that. So I'm pretty much a professional pincushion now. But yeah, uh, just what let's before we run out of time talk about intellectual self care, which is basically taking care of your mind. Does anybody have any ideas on what they do to intellectually for self care? Desiree?
Yeah, I think intellectually would be the conversations my husband and I have, right? So he knows one of the biggest thing about him, because we met through an app,
Yeah.
is he saw me for who I am.
Yeah.
And we would talk for hours via video. And he was not afraid to talk to me about anything. I would talk to him about Black issues, and he would listen. He would actually listen. So for me to have a conversation with somebody that's meaningful is a
Yeah.
huge thing. Not just my husband, but other people. Having being on this panel, for example, is something that I do for myself, for my brain, kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? And somebody may say something, and I'll respond, and it'll be something that I've probably needed to say
Uh-huh.
for a long time, but didn't know until that moment, kind of thing. I didn't know that expressing myself about something would alleviate something that I was carrying that I didn't realize I was carrying,
Yeah.
kind of thing, right? I'm not finding the right words.
Well, I think having conversation with someone can just open up thought, like directions that you never thought of before, right? Like exploring your own psyche, really.
But it's I think also it's the validation
Yes.
that you get from other people.
It is
You
really
know?
important. Yeah, that
Yeah.
people understand that you're talking to someone who actually gets what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Validate it.
I
You
think
know,
Trista had something to say in the comments. She had her hand up a while ago.
Who, Christian?
Trista.
Trista, go ahead, Trista.
No, I was just gonna tell Smarshy to ask for the butterfly needle. And
I do that every time.
Oh,
and
I totally forgot I could ask for that.
You
no,
can.
it's the best. And I always like make an appointment mid morning because they're way quieter. In
Yeah.
my experience, I have to go for a lot of blood work lately, and I also hate going for blood work. But the butterfly needle has changed my life, and I also didn't think to ask to do that.
see, every single time I've gone in to the lab here, that's all they've used on me. So they might, I don't know, maybe it's the luck of the draw of who I'm getting. But they've always used a butterfly needle on me here.
Oh, good. I always ask because I find they can get it much better with a butterfly needle.
Yes.
And I also give them the option to just use my hand, which does hurt more, but it's faster and they don't mess it up because they can get the vein.
Oh no, no. That I tell them, like I'll have to tell them when I go in on Friday, they have to put that IV in my arm
Mm-hmm.
because in my hand it hurts too freaking bad.
Well, yeah, exactly. Everybody's different. For me, because they have to dig so much, it's sometimes better just to take the hand and get it done one time. But drinking water makes a huge difference. I find that as long as I drink a lot of water before I go, I'm good. Yeah. And while we're talking about it, Trista, what kinds of things do you do for like intellectual self-care?
I like to,
Yeah.
listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts,
Oh,
come on
podcasts.
TikTok for validation. I think that's like helped with the political things
Mm-hmm.
because as much as I center myself around people that are like-minded, not everyone is involved in politics as me and mentally. So I think that's helped me find a space that I feel I can, yeah, I can research things more and just feel like I'm not the only one that's worried about things sometimes. That's validating.
And it's good sometimes to learn something that doesn't have anything to do with the politics too, like whatever, because that's taking up so much. I find with myself anyway, I'm very hyper focused right now on the political stuff, and I need to.
But we have to be.
We have exactly. I'm not saying don't, but make sure you're taking some time away from that with anything else.
I do in the evenings and I watch like my trashy TV shows. And I
Awesome.
Oh my God.
also I meditate like every single day. That's
That's
like
awesome.
one thing. So
Yeah, meditation is it is not as hard as some people believe it is because you can't really do it wrong. The idea is just to, like mindfulness, to just focus your mind on maybe a mantra. There are many really great guided meditations out there
Mm-hmm.
that can help. If silent meditation isn't your thing, there's a lot of ways to get into meditation, and it really does help with mental health.
Yeah,
Right.
and don't expect to not think. Like you
Oh
think
yeah,
and then you just watch your thoughts. Like I think people get caught up in thinking that your mind's supposed to be empty or something,
yeah.
and that's just you're gonna think and you just kind of let it go. And once you learn that, it's very relaxing.
Right.
Quickly going to interrupt. Trump's mouth. Why did you want to come up? We're only having friendlies up right now, and we're not debating. We're talking about mental health. So
Okay, I just want to quick thing to what Trista said
yeah, go ahead.
is my kids grew up with me telling them if it's not going to affect your life a day, a year, a month, a year, or a year from now, let it go.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to pick your battles, right? Not everything is worth it.
Yeah.
And and same thing with a little bit about locus of control, because there's certain things in our world that are within our locus of control and certain things in the world that are not. And with that, it's just a fancy way of saying like I can't control who's going to win an election, but I can control who people are going to vote for to a certain degree or affect, right? By educating, by talking about these kinds of things, by posting. So I'm doing what is within my control. I can't control you know what I mean? Like, just I can't control what Trump does. For example, there's a great example. I cannot control what that nobody can, by the looks of it, control what that person does. But I can control how I react to it and how much of it I take in and when I do, like when I look at the news or when I choose to be on TikTok and see what's going on. And I can take time away from that when I need to as well, and know that it can wait an hour, right? Or 2 hours or a day or two if I need time off. So things like that, like the stuff that's outside of our locus of control is often stuff that we need to take a deep breath and just let go and
Right.
think about the stuff that we can control.
I have to say, my self-control um, is getting better,
Mm-hmm.
and my self-awareness is getting better. Um,
Yeah.
I the other day I couldn't. The one day I couldn't sleep, and I was like looking at my basement because I just did laundry, and I do laundry at weird hours, like
Yeah.
1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing laundry. Don't know why. Just it's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do with my? Because my basement looked like it had just exploded, clothes everywhere. And so I went upstairs. I grabbed the little thing, little roll of garbage bags I got from Costco, and I went downstairs and I took all the clothes that I didn't know were gonna fit me. I didn't think they were gonna fit me. I have overgrown them. I'm too big for them. It's too small for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
took everything and I just put it in a bag, in a garbage bag, and I left it there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can actually see my basement floor. I can see things. I can move things around. I don't have to step. I'm not tripping on things.
Mm-hmm.
I swept my floor. So I'm getting a little better. It's just getting that mattress and box spring out of my basement, and then I won't have so much clutter.
Yeah.
But I also did buy, and I know we're trying to boycott Amazon, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think I can, to be honest, because they have some really good deals.
I was going to say,
But it's
I can't cut Amazon completely off. I wish I could, but
no,
I've probably cut my purchases down at least 85, 90%. Like I buy
right,
what I can other places, if that makes
right,
sense.
and then there, where I can find them for cheaper, if I can find them on Temu for cheaper, I will.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm sitting there and I bought myself drying racks because I hate using my um my dryer for my clothes because some of my
Yeah.
clothes are like hang dry. Like you should,
Right.
So I bought two of them. I bought one and I'm like, okay, one is not enough. So I bought another one. I put it all together. My son brought them downstairs, and the amount of money I'm saving on my dryer bill, just on my heating bill for my dryer is like amazing. The only one that uses the dryer is my son. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, I'm just reading what
I have a
Desiree
tip.
said.
I have a tip. Do not use your dryer or a heavy electric draw between 4 and 7 o'clock because the rates are higher between 4 and 7 o'clock.
Oh, I
What
didn't
about
know
one
that.
o'clock in the morning?
They
High,
should be
low.
fine.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to say
well,
that's
that's
going to be a
when
low
I do
time.
laundry.
But yeah, and another great thing to do. I've been trying to do it a little more lately is journaling, just writing my thoughts. And
See,
Smarsha, you might find that helpful just with what you're going through with this, friend. Just writing
I
down.
wouldn't call her a friend anymore. I would just
Yeah,
call her a person I know
yeah,
because it's. I'm under the impression that she is a friend, but I'm also under the impression she's someone I did not know. There's
yeah,
two sides to every coin, and I didn't want to look at the other coin, the other
yeah,
side.
yeah. And
So
sometimes you
I
do that.
and to stimulate my brain and do like self-care and just personal self-care, I have been doing a lot of puzzles on my
Yeah,
phone, like on
that's a
my
good one.
computer.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't do like the little puzzles. I do like 240-piece jigsaw puzzle. And it because I have the brain problems,
Yeah.
like I don't have the cognitive part. Like I have the cognitive, but it's not like it's supposed to be, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
there, but it's not there.
Yeah.
And my doctor's like, you have to do brain things. Like you have to work your brain, do repetitive. And I've been doing this like for like 6 nights straight. And I'm like, and I'm just sitting there. I'll fall asleep doing a puzzle, or I'll play
Do you like it? Like, do you
I do,
enjoy it?
but it gets frustrating. I try to do the ones that are all one color, right? So
Oh, it'd be hard.
no, actually, I find them
Yeah.
easier
Hmm.
because I can just, and I'm like, my brother's like, why are you doing that over and over and over again? I'm like, do you have a brain injury? And he goes, no. Do you need to do repetitive things? He goes, no. But do you do repetitive things for your job? He goes, yes, I do. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so here's the thing. You and I are different. Our brains don't think the same way. Our brain paths aren't the same, built the same.
Yeah.
My brain path because I'm a woman, and your
Yeah.
brain path because you're a man, but mine's a little different because my brain waves were a little bit altered, if you
Yeah.
will, for lack of better words.
Yeah. Well,
And
yeah.
he's like,
So
oh,
you can do lots
okay.
of. Yeah.
And I'll sit there and there's like games I'll put on my phone and I have a stylus and I'll sit there for hours and just do these connect the dots. And
That's
my
awesome.
brother's like, why are you doing this again? I said, again, your
Practice.
brain path is different than mine because you're a man and I'm a woman, but I also have a cognitive disorder where I
Yeah.
have to remember things in a pattern because if I don't go in the same pattern the same time, never gonna know which way to go. And my mom for the longest time used to get me to do mazes
Yeah.
and I couldn't. I could not do it.
And now yeah.
No, even now it's like I have to like trace a pen
Yeah.
down one way and then I have to take a pen on the other. Like so I have two pens, one that I write with and one that I just trace down.
Right.
So it's hard to do, but I'm my dad says you're very innovative in the moves that you make. I'm like, I have to though,
Yeah.
because I don't have a choice.
Well, exactly. It's what's going to help.
And they're like, my grandmother when she was alive,
Yeah.
rest her soul, um, she would get me to do pinpoint needling, and I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
cool.
not going to be able to do this because
Right.
I don't have I have the dexterity with my one hand, but I
Yeah.
don't have limited use with my left.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the last time I talked to the doctor, he said I have 50%. 10 years
Okay.
ago, I had 70%.
Okay.
So it's going down like every so often. And I have like the muscle, like it's gone.
Yeah. That's a
It's
tough
the
one.
part, it's the partial paralysis from the meningitis that partially paralyzed the left side of my body. So when
Oh.
you're supposed to feel pain receptor, you have the pain receptors in your body.
Yeah.
I don't have those actual pain receptors. I
Oh,
mean, I
wow.
do, but I don't. Like I have very little.
They're
So
numb
when
or.
something is not supposed to hurt
Mm-hmm.
as much as it does, that's when I go in. And the
Oh,
doctors are like, is it probably because you have paralysis? I'm like, yeah, probably.
yeah.
But on my right side, if I go to the doctor right away, they're like, okay, so your right side hurts right away, but your left side doesn't really hurt. And I'm like, no, I walked on my knee for a good 6 weeks before I went to physio, and my physiotherapist is like, you have a torn meniscus tendon. I'm like, yeah. He goes, how are you walking? I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
'cause I left it for so long, right? I've been through the ringer with my health.
sounds like
I
it.
am so used to it, but it's just I've navigated my life. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard,
Yeah.
and
And
I wouldn't trade it. I mean, honestly, as much as people say, "Oh, would you trade your life for anything?" I said no, because I've navigated life for 41 years like this. I'm just gonna continue going.
no, and you should be proud of the progress you've made. Like it's
Oh, some
we
days I am.
learn
Some
we
days I'm
learn.
like,
It sucks. Like some of the things really suck, but we learn. We learn from it. And that's something.
it is.
How about you, Trista? What kind of stuff do you do to take care of your intellect?
I think we already did me, but I wanted to add that I like doing signing petitions. They make me feel like I'm in control of something when I don't feel in control of something that's bigger than me.
That's awesome.
I think so
Which
too.
I know a lot of people think they're useless, and I'm just gonna stay in my happy bubble that I think they change the world.
Well, you know what? Some do. Some petitions actually do change the world.
They
Hmm.
do.
And if everybody did a little bit of their part and did a little bit of petition, it would. I remember going up into a panel on a political live, and it was like, I'd like to say just before Christmas, maybe just after.
Hmm.
I don't really remember. It's been a while. I went on this petition and they said they were talking about Indigenous issues, and again, nobody Indigenous on the panel.
Yeah.
And they're talking, and I'm like, do you guys realize how insane this sounds and wild this is? You guys are talking on issues that none of you face.
Yeah.
Let someone come up that has a clue about what you're talking about, or even a slight clue about what you're talking about. So they brought me up, and I said, I just want to say something real quick before we get into this conversation, if the host is okay with it. And they're like, yeah, no, not a problem. So I posed a question. They said, what is everybody doing for the 231 calls to action? And
Hmm.
they're like, what is that? I'm like, well, okay, have you heard about the MMIW G2S? And they're like, this one girl's like, I've been uh totally flipped it around on her. And I'm like, okay, and I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry that you didn't get the justice you deserved.
Hmm.
I really, really am terribly sorry that that happened. But that's not the question I asked. I'm gonna pose the question again. What are you guys Canadians doing? And I'm not just saying white Canadians, I'm talking all Canadians in general. What are we doing to get the 231 calls to justice or 94 calls to action completed? Because we need them completed by September 2025, or it's gonna be really fucking bad for us. And this
Okay.
one woman's like, well, I donate blankets and clothes to the homeless people. The level of entitlement of this person,
Yeah.
I shit you not. And then I went into
That
another
that
live,
in
like,
itself is racist, implying that all homeless people are First Nations.
Yeah.
right. And I'm like, okay, guys, I gotta go. Like, I have to drop. So I did that. And then I went into another friend's panel and I said to them, if the host is okay with it and she's a friendly, I'm like, can you tell me when or what are we doing as Canadians and all of us collectively? This is not just picking on the European descendants. This is
Hmm.
everybody collectively. What are we doing to get the 231 calls to action? The first response out of someone was, well, I can barely feed my kids. Why would I? It takes 2 seconds and it's free. So again, I pose the same question. What are
Yeah.
we doing to get these calls to action completed? And they look at me and they're like, well, where is it? I'm like, ourhouseofcommons.ca. Go in there, type
Very
in
easy.
you can go in the Google bar. Go into Google, go into the search bar, type up 231 calls to action. The petition is right there. I will drop the petition number. I will email. I will message you. I don't care. I will get you everything you need to know. But again, I ask you the same freaking question. What are we doing to get these 231 calls to action
Yeah.
completed? And they're like, well, you should talk to your MLA. I'm like, I've been talking to my MLA, my MP, the NDP, the C. Like, I've been talking to everybody about this, but I'm asking you personally, what are we doing? And
Yeah.
not one of them could give me a fucking answer. Not
Yeah.
one of them. And then one of them called me a racist because I asked a question. They said, you don't even know the word of what a racist is. And unfortunately, you're wrong about me because I cannot be racist. I can be prejudiced, and you're
Mhm.
giving me a good goddamn reason to be prejudiced.
Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to say that too is like contacting government officials. And then I also have a lot of plants that I take care of and I try and learn about them to like, I don't know. I have like you, Desiree, I have like over 60 plants, I think.
Oh, wow.
During COVID, I was like importing plants as like a fun hobby. And then I learned it was like very horrible for people in Indonesia. So I stopped importing plants. It's very unethical. Um, and but now I just propagate my own plants. And then what was the other thing? Training my dogs because that's good for their intellect. And they're like old senior boys, but they like to learn new tricks. And I feel like it gets me to like bond with them, and it gets me like because we walk together, but they like still learning new tricks, and it keeps me on my toes. But anyways, thank you, Smarshy, and thank you for validating that petitions aren't useless.
No.
They're
Because if
not. They
every,
never are. They never will be. Just honestly,
and if
keep
every,
doing what you're doing,
yes, and if
and
every
you'll be
single
good.
person cared a little bit about a little bit of things, we would all make a change. And I think that's like, we can all be like one ripple in like a
Right.
wide ocean. And then like that's all it takes. It's like some like that woman that you said was complaining about feeding her kids. It's like, well, that's a systemic issue. If you put more time into like an effort into like one
Right.
email a week to like every single government official you can think of and advocating for that, that's helping not only your own family, but it's helping other families and it's
Right.
helping. Yeah. Anyways, thank you.
No, no,
Awesome.
no.
And
You're good.
your
You're
head
absolutely good.
Yeah. Desiree, did you want to add something?
Yeah, as I look over to my right and see my camera sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
um, the other thing that uh, we do, we do, because Andrew tags along with me, is, we'll go down. We went into Writing on Stone in the fall, and took pictures because it's an hour and a quarter drive from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've gone to Red Rock, Coulee, which is another favorite place, but I went down into the valley
Mm-hmm.
and took pictures down in there. And I missed a whole big section there, so that's going to be another trip. Um, I do. It's been too cold, but I will go out when I get an aurora alert.
Mm-hmm.
I have my spot out that I go to, and it's only 20 minutes from me, so I'll go out there and I'll take pictures. And photography is my second love.
Nice.
Music is my first.
Mm-hmm.
I play 5 instruments, but I don't have any instruments, right? So photography is something that I can do, either with my camera or my cell phone, and then I edit them, et cetera, et cetera. It's and I'm pretty much set up now with the whole photography thing. Tripod, camera bag, that's all. I've got that all. Lenses.
Is it an old school camera or a digital?
It's a mirrorless digital camera.
Nice.
I have an old school Practica, but it's a film camera, but it's super expensive
Yeah,
for film, right?
it is.
Um, I
Yeah.
would love to have 60 plants in here, but our little house is just not big enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I have the garden, and the other half of the yard will be an arid garden that I'm putting in a dry river bed and cactus and grasses, but that I can't do that until the addition is done, right? Because
Right.
I'm going to tear up the yard, so there's lots of things that I will be doing. I just have to exercise some patience,
Mm-hmm.
and plan. Plan what I'm going to do,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And two of the stumps, we had to take down 3 trees out front because they were dead, like
Okay.
over 70 feet. Two of those stumps are sitting in the front yard,
Hmm.
upside down, so the roots are sticking out. So it's an artistic thing too.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
sounds fun.
with what I'm doing there. But it's steps, right?
Yeah. I want to change. I've got a garden in the back.
Hmm.
Really nice. Like last year was the first year I've been successful at vegetable gardening. I had a really good year last year. But I want to do my front yard as like a kind of a medicine garden, and rather than grass, because grass then you just have to mow it and water, et cetera, et cetera. I want to do like a rock garden with like perennials, um, that'll come up every year instead. But I'm gonna have to. We'll see if that's gonna happen this year. But it's nice when you can use your space for vegetables too, you know,
Right.
and herbs
See,
and things like that. Like I grew my own chamomile last year and mint. I still have lots of mint and things like that.
we're,
So
we're gonna
yeah,
have to like make a Discord group for people who like gardening and just because I can garden. It's not something that I don't know
yeah,
how to do because my grandmother taught me how to plant and seed and
nice.
do all this. And the beginning of 2020, I knew vegetables were going to get higher because of the pandemic and all this stuff and C-19 and just so I literally like started like taking those like little plastic pots from
Yep,
the dollar store
yep,
and I would put seed in there and I would put enough in there so that I could kind of gauge where I was at. I started doing it and it was working really good and then I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna have to transplant these because they're gonna like, you know.
hmm,
And I sat there and I'm like the already potted plants that I bought that were pre, you just had to add water and mix it
yeah,
up a little bit. And they unalived. Like
yeah.
there was no saving those. The cucumber plants were starting to go really, really good until some gophers got a hold of them.
Last year was weird weather too. My cucumbers, I got maybe
Oh,
5 cucumbers, like, but
I
everything else
haven't
got five.
tried.
Yeah,
Again, I haven't tried. It's like I haven't tried since 2021,
yeah,
and it's oh my God, I can't fathom
yeah.
how much I hate
Yeah.
gophers. Them little
Oh, I mean, if
furry rodents.
gophers, yeah, I have not had a problem with them yet. My yard is fenced, so and
Oh,
they
my yard is fenced too, but
they haven't
Medicine Hat
gotten
is
in yet.
full of gophers.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in Edmonton,
It,
and I don't.
it's
We
the
don't have as
deer.
many here.
It's gopher heaven here for some reason.
Marshy, it's not. It's we don't have the gophers down in the flats. It's the deer.
I've heard they can be
It's
really.
You
the
Yeah,
have the deer,
deer.
I have the gophers, and I get some I get
I
some
we had to put up a 6.5 foot fence
yeah,
last year because, well, I've got a barrier around the garden because it's at the front, right? And it's a 4 foot limit there. But deer are a protected species in
hmm
Alberta. There was a lady in my neighborhood who the deer were eating her plants and she chased them out of the yard, and a neighbor filmed her and she got a $1,500 fine. You are not allowed to chase deer off your property, but you can chase a two-legged intruder.
huh. I don't see the harm
Oh
in chasing
yeah.
them off like anything else. I would,
You
but
can startle them and give them a heart attack. That's what happens.
oh, really?
But
Wow.
the deer here, Jana, the deer here are so tame. You step out there and you go to chase them and they look at you like, what?
What are you doing?
They don't run. They
They
don't,
don't.
they're a menace here.
Yeah,
I had a deer. I had a neighbor when I lived up in Crescent Heights and Medicine Hat here. She would like middle of fucking spring, and she would grab her hose and spray the deer down with water. I'm like, are you trying to unalive these deer? Because that's what's gonna happen.
yeah. You
And
gotta
I
be.
would just shake my head, and then she would watch the deer come to my house, eat my grass, and walk right up to me like, "Are you gonna pet me?" No, because you're full of disease.
Yeah.
I don't like diseases.
Yeah,
And they're like, "Why did they walk up to you?" I'm like, "I don't know."
because they know you're safe. That's kind of like buffalo don't run from me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, but I had emails go back and forth with Fish and Wildlife regarding the deer,
Yeah.
right? Because I asked
Yeah.
them to cull these deer because this is outrageous how many
Oh,
deer are down here,
yeah.
and they won't do it. They won't do anything, you know. And I've watched deer running in front of vehicles down here, you know, baby deer, you know, and the amount of feces they leave everywhere is not healthy.
No, it's not. But what are we gonna do, right? Like, I've had the one day I was on the phone and I was on a live, and I'm like, "Oh my God." They're like, "What?" I'm like, "If I could turn my camera on right now and show you, um, it is like, oh my God, like I just want to take a picture because all you see is this big buck deer with like his antlers, and he's walking right through my yard, and I'm like, what the fuck?"
Yeah. They're
And they
pretty.
stop and they munch, and they're more prevalent in the city because you can't actually hunt them in the city,
Exactly.
and that's why they're more prevalent. But there's so many of them. And then you got to worry about moose coming in because moose will actually go inside the school. If a kid leaves the door open, a moose will actually get into the school. It is like insane the
Yeah.
amount of like moose we've had in school. Then you got to worry about the wildlife. Like you got to worry about the cougars and the wildcats, and you just have to. It's so like even moose. The moose I ran into when I was like 14 and camping just walked right up to me, and I'm like, please don't eat me. Like I really don't want to unalive today. I'm like 5'2", you're 7 foot, you outweigh me by a lot. And I
Yeah.
start walking backwards, and this moose is following me, and I'm like, what the f is going on here? You're supposed to go away from humans, not towards them. But he was just so calm, and I was like, oh
Well,
yeah, I was so mad.
Well,
I'm gonna wind down now because we're almost at 2 o'clock.
mhm.
So I'm just gonna take a moment to say thank you to everybody who's been here today. I've loved having you, and I haven't decided next week yet what we're going to talk about, but I'll figure that out during the week. I just want to go over some of the shows that we have on Beaver Politics all week long. So at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, we have Radicalized with host Radical, and it's the gray matter of politics and how religion is impacting the political atmosphere. On Sundays now, and I believe this Sunday will be our first time, we have a Damn Happy Life with Happy hosting, and that's from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Mondays, we have Indigenous Matters with Treaty 6 Birder, and they start at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And their show is about the effects of politics on Indigenous communities and how the Indigenous people can affect the political structure. Tuesdays, we have News Hour with Frontline Feminist, and that's from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's highlighting the biggest news from the weekend or news you might be missing and bringing it to the forefront. On Wednesdays, we have the Mossy Side with the Progressive Moose, and that's from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And this is the messy side of politics and doing some deep dives into weekly topics. On Thursdays in the afternoon, we have the Navigation Station hosted by the Misses. That is 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Pacific or 4 p.m. to 5:30 Eastern Time. And this is education, resources, and solutions to help navigate the Canadian political landscape. We also have Truth Through Discourse, and this is hosted by Mrs. Radical, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 5 to 6:30 Pacific. And these are weekly discussions on relevant news topics and social issues. And finally, Friday, we have Canadian History with the Purple Crayon that is hosted by Pixie Lee, and that's from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's Canadian History prior to Canada with a focus on BIPOC perspectives. And finally, we have Polytalk or Politi-Talk with Nerdy, and that is from 5
Little
p.m.
talk.
Polititalk, thank you. Polititalk with Nerdy, and that's 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's up to 6 hours. And that's weekly debates over politics and social issues focusing on Canada and including the United States. So thank you, everybody, for coming here today, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys. I feel better.
Thank you.
You guys have a great day.
Take care,
Thank
Smurfy.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.